or do you expect it to be used in the education sector or not? So we're gonna find that out. Okay, so let's get started. So Kaizen education, I know that this is not a very familiar topic because everybody expects Kaizen to be used more in the manufacturing and the industrial sector, not in the service sector. However, it's very commonly used when it comes to service sector, as we're going to find out. All right, so Kaizen in education. This is Kai and this is Dash. Together makes Kaizen. We're going to know what that means shortly. Today, we're going to talk about what is Kaizen, then the Kaizen history and how it started in Japan and what it was originated from. And then after that, we're going to talk about the continuous improvement cycle as a whole, and is Kaizen part of it or is it the whole thing? And then after that, we're going to know the difference between Kaizen and Lean, because most of the times people confuse those two together and they think that Kaizen and Lean is one thing. Well, they are connected, but they are not the same thing. And as well, we're going to talk about the Kaizen levels, and we're going to talk about the Kaizen event, which is one of the levels, which is a very important level, which is commonly used as well, and the Kaizen hierarchy and the pyramid of management and how Kaizen can help achieve the managerial goals. As well, we're going to talk about the pillars of Kaizen, and there are 3 very important pillars. And finally, we're going to talk about the success factors that needs to be in any organization for the Kaizen event to be very successful. And finally, we're going to have some activities, 5 activities to be specific, starting from personal activities in implementing Kaizen all the way to the educational sector and how they should be implementing Kaizen in class. All right, so what is Kaizen? As we can see here in this image by the side, that there is a person with a ladder that has steps far from each other and one that is on the top. So Kaizen is mainly about this, taking things slowly, step by step. So as we are going to see now. So Kaizen, definition, it's a combination of 2 words, Kai and then. So the first part means change and or improvement or making difference, and the second part then means continuous or good. So together, Kaizen means good change or change for the better. All right. So it means continuous incremental changes. Also, Kaizen is an everyday, everyone, everywhere improvement. So it's not limited to doing it once each now and then. No, it has to be done on a continuous basis. And when it comes to the Japanese community, Kaizen is the key to their success. So the Japanese system would not have been successful without the use of Kaizen, not just in the manufacturing sector, but also as a lifestyle. Okay, so if you know that Kaizen was developed from Toyota production system, do you believe that we can use it in social life if it was mainly developed for the manufacturing system? So what do you think? Can you just write it in the comments? Okay, let's see. Not sure whether this is opened or not. Okay, we're gonna find that out just after watching this video. اوكي طيب تمام. هو تقريبا مايكروسوفت تيمز مش بيشغل الفيديو، فليتس سكيب ذا فيديو عشان بس الصوت مش هيبقى واضح. هو عامة الفيديو كان يعني أنا ممكن أشرح لكم الفيديو كان بيتكلم على إيه. هو الفيديو فكرته الرئيسية احنا بنتكلم على ازاي نستخدم الكايزن for personal reasons. يعني what could be the goals of مثلا a 9-month-old child مثلا to walk without his parents. What could be the goals of a 40-years-old employee to have financial security, مثلا to have support after finishing his work and so on. So this is how to achieve Kaizen in social life. Okay. If the voice is not clear, please just let me know in the comments in the conversation, right? Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so Kaizen could be used and most importantly used as a lifestyle in social life. It's also used in the manufacturing system, which is where it was originated to start with. It was originated in the manufacturing system on factories and industry, and we're going to know how. And then in the service sector as well, it's used in universities, in banks, and in hospitals. Of course, universities is what we are going to be talking about today. So as well, this is how Kaizen, as we can see, a person who's not being able to, go up the ladder, and on the other side, on the left side, we can see here the person who's on top of the ladder because he's using Kaizen because he can simply implement changes. All right, so how Kaizen is started. The history of Kaizen did not start from just being the Japanese trying to improve themselves. As a matter of fact, it started in 1950s after the Second World War, and they were adopting the Western technology. So they didn't just initiate it from Japan. No, they started by adopting the other countries' technologies and trying to use it to their benefit. When they started with Kaizen, the whole idea was that Japanese products was perceived as low cost, low quality. So they wanted to change that by making it low cost and high quality and increase the customer satisfaction as well. So the first stage was to absorb the foreign techniques by the Japanese and start come up with their own method of improvement. Of course, after the war, Japan was not that much of a developed country, so they had to come with not just a huge jump, no, an incremental changes because they couldn't afford making an innovation or huge changes. All right. Second stage happened in the 70s, and that was the diffusion through the Japanese companies, including small and medium-sized organizations. So they started using Kaizen as it's known now, and they started using it not only in large organization or manufacturing companies. No, they started using it from small companies and as well medium-sized companies, and it spread all over Japan. The third stage we can find that started to spread across Asia. This is the regional spreading. As well, it was correspondent with what happened in the globalization of the Japanese business activities. And this stage, people were starting to see the Japanese products as a higher quality product and with less cost. So here they started making the improvement and showing the world that their products is not low cost, low quality. In the 1990s, the growing interest of Kaizen started to spread across not just East Asia, but as well in other developing countries like in Africa and as well in South America. Started to take a global perspective of Kaizen implementation. Nowadays, it's very famous across all countries, even the Western countries. All right, so is Kaizen the only thing that when we say we're making a continuous improvement is Kaizen is what we have in mind, or is continuous improving Kaizen and other things? All right, it's very important to know that Kaizen is not the only thing in the continuous improvement cycle. There is as well innovation. So it's a complete cycle of two things, Kaizen and innovation. And innovation in Japanese, it's kaika-ku. So this is Kaikaku and this is Kaizen, and together they are the cycle of continuous improvement. Innovation means radical change. We're going to have a change that happens in a certain time. When it comes to Kaizen, it's a continuous incremental changes. And as well, we can say that Kaizen is coming, it's implemented all over the globe. And as well, we can say that in أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. ومن هنا دي جت فكرة الكايزن، إن الأعمال بتبقى صغيرة بس بشكل دائم، بالاستمرارية بنوصل للهدف. So Kaizen means small improvements. It's not making large leaps. This is innovation. It's based on slow economy. It's not implemented in economies when we're going to be having leaps forward, or that we have the money to implement changes in a fast way. No, Kaizen is mainly implemented in the slow economies. That's when it started. As well, it requires a normal amount of knowledge. It's implemented by workers in factories. It's implemented by students. It's implemented by teachers. It's implemented by employees in hospitals or in companies. It doesn't require somebody who's a huge knowledge in everything that is going to make a creative innovation or something. So everybody can implement Kaizen. As well, Kaizen requires many people to implement this. It's people-oriented. Not a single person can implement Kaizen. It's not about making a leap forward. It's about lots of people coming together and implementing the changes. As well, Kaizen requires a personal involvement. So a person implementing Kaizen is being part of the team, has to care that what he's doing is done in a more caring way, and that they reach the target together as a team. So it has a personal involvement to the cause of what they are trying to achieve. On the other as well, it improves the process. The Kaizen doesn't focus on the end results. We're not making an innovation or creating something new. So our aim is not the end results. No, Kaizen is about improving the whole process, whatever the process is, the educational process, providing a certain service, the process of manufacturing a certain product. This is the idea behind Kaizen. On the other side, we have innovation. And innovation requires a huge amount of money investment, because innovation, we're going to make something big. We might as well be creating something huge, or making a new machine, or a new educational system. So this requires money investment. As well, it's a major improvement. We cannot say that innovation is something that we're going to do every day. No, it's a leap forward. It requires creativity and brainstorming. As well, it requires few champions. We cannot say that a person is going to have a whole team is going to have a breakthrough in idea if not few of them are champions and have creative ideas and thoughts. Well, it's mainly working when the economy status is good. We cannot have a small economy trying to make innovations each now and then because of the financial investment issue. So Kaizen works better in the small economies. However, it's used in big economies. But innovation is mainly in big economies where we can invest lots of money, and as well technology of equipment. So if we're talking about small economy, Kaizen will be the answer. If we are talking a big economy, they can use the technology of equipment to enhance whether the service or manufacturing industry. Innovation is about reaching a certain result. We are trying to reach to a certain goal, so we are interested in how that result happens. And that's why together they work as a continuous improvement cycle. Once we have the innovation part is working, we created something, whether this product of ours is an educational system, whether it's a final product in a material, physical shape. After that, we start improving the process by introducing Kaizen. So this is a continuous cycle. Together they work, not one of them alone. All right, so when you ask people what is Kaizen, they say it's part of the Lean process, or Kaizen is Lean, right? Or they say that this is something related to Six Sigma, right? This is related to TQM, Total Quality Management. Actually, most of the books talking about Lean talk about Kaizen and vice versa. And we have in the references as well a book talking about titled Agile and Lean Concept for Teaching and Learning. So it's Lean as well. It includes the Kaizen methodology, because together Lean and Kaizen are very, very related and very similar. So let's start with what's the difference between them. And introducing Kaizen, I'm not going to focus on all the principles of Kaizen because there's a lot of those. I'm just going to focus about the three major pillars of Kaizen. We have three main pillars of Kaizen. The first one is waste elimination. We're going to talk a lot about this in the upcoming slides. As well, housekeeping and keeping the place clean and organized and standardized, and standardization, which is the final pillar. Of course, Kaizen has lots of tools. We're going to see that later on, but those are the main three pillars based on which Kaizen is initiated as an event. All right, so what about Lean? When it comes to Lean, there are lots of principles, but mainly Lean is about a specific value. We're specifying the value that we want to introduce to our customer. So Lean is about Lean is flexibility. It comes from the word lean or flexible. So Lean is about being able to introduce to the customers what they want. So we have a specific value that we are introducing to the customers, what the customer wants, and then we introduce it to them. So it's mainly focused on no waste, no delay, introducing what they want at the time that they want. So this is Lean. All right. So we're talking about a specific value. As well, what can be included in the Lean is that map the value stream. All right. So we're going to have to know what the customer wants, and then determine the whole process, all right, that we're going to be using to produce the service or production. And then we're going to map that value stream. Okay. So the reason for that is that we want to determine the value added activities and the non-value activities to be able to eliminate them. As we said, Lean is about waste elimination. A third, a pursuit of perfection. Lean, as we said, is all about waste elimination, which means that it's about perfection. Okay, so mainly we need to eliminate the waste, reach what the customer wants, and make sure that this is done in a perfect way. So wherever there is something to be improved, we improve it. Of course, those three principles of Lean is not everything. We can as well focus on making the value flow. And the value flow is that after we map the value stream, we try to eliminate whatever waste comes in the way, the delay, and so on. As well, we can add to that, let the customer hold the value, because as we said, Lean is about creating what the customer wants. So you can see that the two of them are just very interrelated, Kaizen and Lean. The two of them are work together. As we said, most of the books talk about Lean and Kaizen together at the same time. So what's the difference between Kaizen and Lean? You can say that they work together. However, Lean is implemented from top down. So this is the management. The head of the service organization is implementing Lean. They say, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. We're going to specify the value for the customer. We're going to map the value stream. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then they implement it. However, Kaizen is more about the involvement of people. So this is a bottom-up approach. Kaizen mainly focus on what the people can do on the factory floor, what they can do. If you're in an educational service, we're talking about what can teachers and students do together. We're not talking about the head of the organization. We're talking about the low level, or what we call Gimpa, the factory floor. The Gimpa is the floor. All right. So back to Kaizen. Now we know the difference between Kaizen and innovation, Kaizen and Lean. We know that Kaizen is different than them. We know that Kaizen can depend on multiple tools. It's interrelated but not separate from other tools. All right, so this Kaizen is just as a philosophy. Is it just something that we do on a daily basis? That's it? Is it like something that we do without being organized? No, it's mainly about organization. So what are the Kaizen levels? The first level is the Kaizen strike. And Kaizen strike is a spontaneous exercise, begins the moment a problem is detected. So let's say that in a factory, we have a problem across the line. So the person who's making the production line, the employee or the worker, will stop the production line and enhance it at once. Let's say that we are in a class and one of the students has a problem. We're going to just pause the class and then we're going to fix the problem with the students and then continue working. So this is a Kaizen strike from its name. We're just going to do it and then continue the day normally. This is hard to measure because it's something done and the process continues after that. All right. After that, we come to Kaizen flats. So if we're talking about level, Kaizen flats must be the level after Kaizen strike. So it's a bland incident, usually completely with less than a week. It could take a few hours. It could take a few days. It's important to have a specific problem for an effective Kaizen flat. So we cannot just not have a problem. It's not about making improvement in general. No, this is improvement when it comes to a specific problem. We find a problem, we are trying to make an enhancement in whatever process that we're dealing with to solve it. So it's like a little bit of a level up from Kaizen strike. It's as well about fixing whatever problems comes in the way. So this is the Kaizen flex. Comes to the third and most important level is an event. Kaizen event is a carefully planned event. It requires several weeks to complete, might even take a month or so. It's often focused on an area of work where the problem is not clearly understood. So talking about Kaizen events, now we have not necessarily a problem. We might just be seeking improvement. So we decided to make an improvement. We're going to go find the problem. We're going to go find the area where we can make improvement. So that's why we say that Kaizen event is not just planned. It might not be based on having a problem or just making improvement. So this is the third level. It's very organized. It's measurable. We can measure the results of the Kaizen event, as we're going to talk about that later on. And as well, it takes a certain amount of time determined from before the start of the event. All right. So now that we know that what we're going to be implementing in any organization in an organized manner is just based on the philosophy of Kaizen. No, we want to implement Kaizen. We know that what we're going to be implementing to reach to a specific improvement level is called Kaizen event. This is what we need to focus on. So Kaizen event is a focused and structured improvement project, and that means that we're going to be needing a team. It's not done by one person. No, it requires a cross-functional team. If we are in for example, a university or a certain faculty in a university, we're going to need a team from administrators, faculty members, teaching assistants, students together to make that improvement. All right, so it targets as well a specific work area. It has a specific goals and it needs to have a time frame. All right, and we have to achieve certain goals within this time frame. Most of Kaizen event takes 3 to 5 days. It could take more, as we said. It needs work sessions. It needs follow-up sessions. Sometimes it takes more time than it's started because of the brainstorming that happens during each work session, so it can take more time. However, it's very organized and the results have to be measured very carefully. And we're going to take an activity to explain how this is done later on. So what are the Kaizen event activities? How we can organize this Kaizen event to make sure that we are following up with the activities in the correct way. All right, first of all, we have to train the team. Train the team it might sound like something easy, but no, we have to train them on using Kaizen. And this is not an easy thing because at the beginning, people might be just saying the suggestions but are not willing to implement it. So we have to train them to know what they want and how they will do it. After that, we have to document the current status. As we're going to see in the activities later on, we have to start with documenting what the current status is. And after implementing Kaizen, we have to document what happens after that. So we have to document the status before Kaizen and after Kaizen. The third step is the identification of the opportunities for improvement. As we said, Kaizen is not about finding a problem and solving it. It's not like Kaizen Strike or Kaizen Blitz. It's an organized event that mainly initiated to find an opportunity for improvement, which means that we are going to have to identify those opportunities and maybe list them down, and then choose from the list which one that we can apply together as a team and which one is the best idea to improve a certain process. The fourth step is selecting the perfect idea to be implemented. So you might want to implement the educational quality, let's say for online learning, and we have lots of options. So together we sit as a team and then we start selecting which one is the best option to be implemented. The fifth step is the result presentation. As we said, we have work sessions, we have brainstorming together as a team, and we have to make presentation to this, what we reach it to. And this is done on a continuous basis. So let's say that the team would gather together once a week or once each few weeks to present their ideas. The sixth step and the last step is the documentation. After the action is being made, after we make the Kaizen event, we have to document what we did. And this is mainly done for follow-up and to make sure that what we did is implemented not only correctly, we can refer to it and other organization to implement it, and we can use it. Let's say if we implemented this in one department, we can use what we reach it to standardize it to the rest of the organization. All right. So most importantly, the Kaizen hierarchy, and this is a very, very important thing, how the Kaizen hierarchy work. Now we know what the Kaizen event is, we know how to organize it, how it works, how can we present Kaizen in any organization, how can we make it on a personal level, if we are going to implement this for ourselves at home, if we want the students to implement it, what are the steps we're going to make people do. Right, so the Kaizen hierarchy first includes the 5 S principles, and as we said before, we have certain pillars. One of them is housekeeping, as we're going to see, and this is the 5 S principles. 5 S is mainly 5 principles that start with the letter S, and that's why we call them 5 S. The first one is sort. We're going to explain that later in depth. Sort, set, shine, standardize, and sustain. All right, so together, those 5 words starting with S, they are called the 5 S principles. And this is when it comes to housekeeping, when it comes to cleaning in your working place, making this working place organized so we can reach our goal easier. All right. The second level is work environment improvement activities. What are the improvement activities we can do in any work environment once we have our workplace set and organized, and we classified what we want first and we put it at the beginning, and we standardize what we did in sort, set, and shine. After that, and improvement ideas. All right, so following that, we have a teamwork, which we said in Kaizen, even this is the most important thing, it's teamwork. A teamwork must have a shared goals. They have a stable membership, which means that we cannot just keep shuffling members from one team to the other each now and then. They have to work together. They have to learn to cooperate together. They have to share the rules between each other. They must have a leadership, a person to guide them, as well a person who is responsible to explain the Kaizen process to them. They must share the outcomes. So whenever a certain member reaches to a certain outcome, he has to share it with the rest of his team. And that's why we said we'll be having continuous follow-up sessions. As well, the communication process between them has to be very smooth. Like they can have WhatsApp group, they can have a meeting through Zoom each now and then, and so on. And the most important thing is that they have to trust each other. Team members cannot be apart from each other. They work together. They have a certain target, so they have to trust each other in order for them to implement this target in the best way. After that, or building on that, we have the problem-solving activities. And we can see here we have three words that are three Japanese things, means Moda, Mora, and Mori. Moda is the waste, and we're going to see the explanation for each one later on. And one is about excessive processing, one is about making an excessive effort, and so on. To solve any problem, as we said, we have to focus on waste elimination, or getting rid of the source of the problems. It's mainly to have something that doesn't belong there, irregularities, or something irrelevant, as those three words mean. And this is the problem-solving activities, which, as well as we said, is the focus of the lean process. It's one of what we in the Kaizen. Right, so we have to reduce the Moda, we have to reduce Mori, and we have to reduce Mora. After that, it comes the 3M, or the human resource, and they focus on three major things that start with M. The first one is the machines, and the machines here means what are the equipment and what we can do to fix it, and the preventive maintenance that we can do to make sure that we don't face any issue during the process that we are working on. As well, we have the material, which is in-house logistics, how we're going to use the materials available to us, whether in service or in production. This as well can include the workflow that we're talking about in educational institution, what they have and how they can use it. And as well, the methods. And the methods here means the standard operations and procedures in any organizations. And the methods is very important. So the human resources, the machines, the material, the methods together are very important in the Kaizen hierarchy to reach to our goals and achieve what the organization wants finally, and at the professional goal of the Kaizen event. All right. So after that, we have here what we call the most important managerial steps. And the managerial steps here, there are 7 steps that are very critical to the success of any managerial process. And we have to balance those managerial steps or managerial targets to be able to achieve any Kaizen process successfully. So what are those managerial targets that any Kaizen event would want to achieve? First of all, it focuses on productivity. This is whether on service, on manufacturing. Productivity is a very important aspect. We need to make sure that what are the productivity level that we want to achieve and reach that level. The second thing is quality. As we said, when the Japanese started learning about Kaizen, they were perceived by the whole entire world as low cost, low quality. And after adopting Kaizen, they became higher quality with lower cost. So this is 2 very important aspects, is that to increase the quality, reduce the cost, and make sure that the service is delivered on time. This is not just for the production, and that's why I wrote service. It's not just delivering the product on the right time. It's after-sales service. If it's educational services, delivering this service at the right time. And safety, because safety is very important. Some people add safety to the 5S principles and make them 6S principles. However, safety is very important. This is where we're talking about the entire process not being jeopardized. This is the safety of the process, the safety of the implementation. It's very critical. And when it comes to the morale, this is the attitude of the team and how they work together to reach the managerial targets. And finally, we have the morals, which are the ethics of the working group, the ethics of the entire organization, the ethics of those who are providing the service. So this is the whole process ethics. All right. So now we have, on top of that, so if we achieved all that, all those steps, the 5S, the second step, which is teamwork, third step, organization-wide Kaizen, which is solving the problem is reducing the waste and the irregularities and irrelevance. And then we have human resources, and we focused on the machines, the material, the methods, and so on. And then after that, we come to balancing the managerial targets, which are productivity, quality, cost, service, delivery, and safety, moral, and morale. After that, of course, there is the employee professional satisfaction, because employees are very important to any organization's success. They have to be satisfied with what they are getting. This is not just merely about satisfied with the position that they are in, but also financial satisfaction, also career-wise satisfaction. It's very critical, and that's why it's on top of all the other steps. So even if we are implementing Kaizen in an effective way, we have to make sure that the employees are satisfied with what they are getting. It's very, very important. That's why it's also in red. After that, we get the product done well. Whether the product here is providing a certain service or providing a product in a material form. But this is on top of achieving the previous steps, as well customer satisfaction. And that's why we see that the product that we are providing and the customer satisfaction are on top of employee satisfaction. If employees are not satisfied, the whole process will collapse. And of course, on top of that is the goal of whatever professional job we are doing. Let's just say that if we are in an educational organization, then the goal is to provide graduate students with proper education level that is capable and that will meet the requirements of the outside market. So that will be the goal that we want to achieve. In this case, if we're talking about an organization, then the goal would be to provide the product expected by the customers from the market and so on. So that would be the goal in this case. So as we said here, this is the Kaizen hierarchy. It's spelled step on step. And all those steps are very important, and they are called the 7 steps in the pyramid of Kaizen. Those steps, as we said, start by using the 5S principles and then having a teamwork. And we said the team is a group of people that have common interests, that work together into achieving a certain goal set for them. I said the most important element in that is trust. The third step is organization-wide Kaizen, and we said that they have to reduce the MODA, the MORI, and the MORA. The fourth step is resource management, and we said we need to know our resources, we need to know the machines to make preventive maintenance, we need to know the materials to be able to know our in-house logistics. We need to know what are the methods we have and standardize upon them. The fifth step is balance between the managerial targets. We said there are 7 targets: productivity, quality, cost, delivery, safety, moral, and morale. And the sixth step is creating a social value. And we said that this is not just about employee satisfaction. This is very critical. On top of that, there is the product and the customer satisfaction. Those 3 very important social values that can be created by any organization. And finally, we're going to reach to our organization goal, and this is what we want to achieve in any organization in the Kaizen process. So here is the Kaizen hierarchy put together. Step 1, 5S. Step 2 is the teamwork, and step 3 is organization-wide Kaizen, reducing the 3 sources of waste. And then after that, we have the human resource, machines, material, method, and this is the resource management. And after that, we have the 5th step, balancing the managerial targets. Those targets and what they depend on, those are the 7 targets that any management system in any organization would want to achieve. After that, We have the employee professional satisfaction, the product, reaching the customer, whatever this product is in the material form, or this product is a service. And we have customer satisfaction. Those are the social values. And then we reach the goal of any organization, whatever that is. So this is the Kaizen hierarchy. Looking at the Kaizen hierarchy, at those 7 steps of whatever organization goal would have, as we said, they are called the 7 steps of the pyramid of Kaizen. We have to say that if we check here, we have the 5 principles in the bottom, the 5 S principles. The 5 S principles, as we said, is one of the pillars of Kaizen. We also said that we have organization-wide Kaizen. This is the second step where we eliminate any source of waste. We said we have 3 sources of waste here, the Moda, the Mori, and the Mora. And as well, we have something very important, which is creating the value and standardizing this value. How we're going to do this, as we said, comparing the Lean to Kaizen, these are the 3 pillars of Kaizen. So, the Kaizen pillars would be housekeeping, waste elimination, standardization. So, when starting any Kaizen event, we have to put those 3 pillars in mind. Usually, people would start by housekeeping activities. This is the easiest one. It's just to find something not in its place, to find something to organize, to find something that we can fix. It's the easiest thing to do. And that's why it's usually we start by housekeeping. And after that, we usually go to waste elimination. This is a little bit of an advanced stage where we find the waste and then eliminate it. And then standardization and maintenance, where we make sure that everything is standardized. And this is the BDCA process, or the leaning cycle, as we are going to talk about it. So let's start with housekeeping. Housekeeping, or the 5S principles, as we saw in the Kaizen pyramid. This is the very first step. Everything else is based on the 5S principle and build upon it. So that's why we start with it. The first thing is sort. What does sort mean? It means separating all the unnecessary things from the necessary things and eliminating them. So this is removing of all unnecessary objects. And here we mean by housekeeping literally is that cleaning the workplace. This related to where we work, the gimpa, the work floor. Whether this is in an service industry or in a manufacturing industry, it's all the same. It's implemented in the very same manner. So we start by sort. This is separating all the unnecessary elements and eliminating them. So we're going to find whatever object that doesn't belong, and then we're going to get rid of them. So if we're talking about an employee in a university, is going to go up every morning and then clean his desk and then organize and categorize what he needs to do and eliminate those unnecessary or old files. That's sorting. Right, second, we have set. And set is about putting the essential things in order so that they can easily access. And this is what we meant by categorizing. So an employee every morning would have to go over all of his files and then start categorizing them. A professor in a university would have to organize what he has to do in a day from the beginning of the day. So he put the essential materials on top, and then following that, the less essential things, and so on. Right. The third step is shine, and this is about cleaning everything. This is something that people should do every morning, is just cleaning their desk. It's a daily activity. Make sure that the workplace is clean, removing any stains and any sources of dirt. It's the same meaning. It's just shining the working places, making it look good so we can feel good and start doing our jobs in a better way. All right. What's the fourth step? It's the standardization. And this is where we make sure that what we did in the previous 3 steps is standardized. So make cleaning and checking is a routine. Might sound easy, but it's not easy because you can start doing those 3 steps the first day, and the second day, and the third day, as we said, Kaizen is a continuous, incremental, built-up process. So maybe to make a habit, as most people, in social work would say, to make a habit, it takes like up to 21 days or more of continuously doing this habit. So standardization here means that you need to repeat this process every single day to make sure that it's done, to make sure that the workplace is organized. This is adopting a new habit. So this is standardization, is making it a routine, on a daily routine. After we make it a routine, we have to sustain it. We have to maintain the previous 4 steps, make sure that they are done every day and that this process is sustained. Not only across one department, no. Here we're talking about generalizing it through the entire organization. So maybe we started this Kaizen activity, the 5S, in one department. After that, we have to make sure that the rest of the organization implement it. So it's effective in, let's just say, the administrative department. Let's generalize it to another department, the HR department, the student affairs department, and so on. So we start in one place, and then we standardize it to the rest of the organization, and then we have to make sure that it's sustained. And that's why it requires people involvement, as we say. It requires many people, because not just a certain department will do it. No, this is the whole organization will do it. So a successful Kaizen event has to be followed by the implementation of the rest of the people in any organization to guarantee the continuity of its success. All right. Some people, as we said, not the Japanese, add safety to the 5S principle. And I said not the Japanese because safety is something very crucial for them. So they don't add it as something that needs to be done. It's an element. It's something that they start with. But other countries might add safety as a 6S to those previous principles of housekeeping, just to make sure that safety is considered when they are implementing this Kaizen activity. Right. So here, as we can see, the global implementation of 5S in more than one country. We have, as we can see here, a local company in Thailand, a Japanese company in Indonesia, a multinational company in Kenya, and then a local company in Kenya. This is how they write it. They write Gimpa, Kaizen Gimpa, as we said, this is work floor. They write Gimpa, Kaizen 5S, and then they start putting them together. What they are going to do is sort, arrange, clean, maintain, and so on. Some of them say that they are 6S. On the middle photo here, it says sort, storage, and so on. The translation of the 5S or the 6S differs because this is mainly translated from Japanese words. So that's why each country might have a different perception from them. However, the explanation is the same. So they implemented as well, not only in factories, they implemented as well in service industries and so on. Right. After that, we said that the second pillar in Kaizen is waste elimination. And when it comes to problem-solving activities, we said 3 Japanese words that were just a little bit weird. We said the first one was moda, and moda is waste. Moda is waste in time and resource, and surprisingly, we have 7 to 8 types of waste that can be eliminated on a personal level and on an organizational level, as we're going to see. And after that, we said there is mori, and mori is the irrelevance. There is an excessive work, and this is irrelevant to what we are doing. So let's remove this excessiveness from the work and just stick to the right thing. As we said, this is elimination of any unnecessary activities. And the last thing is the mora. And mora is the irregularity. This is when it comes to the process. We have something that is not adding up in the process and we have to fix it, and this is the mora. So the moda, mori, and mora together, they are the waste sources. And maybe some people might ask, we have unnecessary process, but are all unnecessary process can be eliminated? Now it's not only about being unnecessary, because there is value added and there is non-value added. Like, for example, if we're focusing on producing cell phones, the HR department is not value added to it, right? But it's a very necessary department to the organization. So we're not just talking about the final product or what's necessary, not necessary to it, value added or not value added to it. We are defining the sources of waste that can be eliminated and the sources of other not value added to the final product, but very necessary to the entire process. There is necessary value adding activities and unnecessary value adding activities, and this is what we need to remove: the unnecessary non-value adding activities. So the three sorts that we need to solve a problem in any organization, or the sources of waste, are Moda, Mori, and Mora. And now we're going to talk about those eight types of waste. And as we said, they can be found in everyday activity that we do, in any factory or any service industry. And once they are eliminated, as we said, this is the level up from housekeeping. This is the level up from the 5S, are the types of waste. So the first type of waste is inventory. And as we said, that could be in service and industry. So we can think of all sorts of inventory that is not necessary. Let's just say we have stocks of books in a university that is not needed and it's taking a lot of space. This is an extra inventory. It might represent an obstacle in the future. The second thing is delay. Delay, of course, is an issue, and it's a very huge source of waste. Whether we're talking about delay in providing the service in the right time, we're talking about delay of an employee personal life when this employee is going to be late for work, and so on. So this is all sources of delay. And then we're talking about motion. And the motion motion is mainly about human motion, not the transportation of a person. Motion is about when you're working in a huge universe and have to move from one place to the other, taking, for example, 10 minutes. This is a motion waste. You're wasting time, you're wasting effort, because you're commuting from one place to the other in a very long time. Motion as well involves when a factory floor worker have to walk, for example, to get coffee from outside the workplace, and takes him 10 minutes to go outside, to get the coffee, and then move back. This is motion waste. This is something that needs to be fixed by making the workspace more flexible, by making sure that people don't walk a lot to reach to their targets. Overproduction, and this is as well related to overprocessing. Overprocessing is, of course, something that we said we need to get rid of, whether this is a service industry or manufacturing industry, because it creates a lot of irregularities. It creates a lot of unseen sources of waste, like overprocess. Nowadays, everybody's focusing on just in time. They're just in time in providing service, just in time in producing, even just in time in the educational process. Getting rid of the excessiveness in the production, the excessiveness of process, will lead to making a just-in-time more effective in any organization. All right, after that, we have the defects. The fact is, this is very, very, very common in factories more than in service industries, but it happens that we have a defective service that we need to fix. This is a very important source of waste as well. We can see transportation, and here when we talk about transportation, we talk about people moving using the transportation, using cars, using buses, and so on. This is the transportation, as opposed to the motion. Motion is when we're talking about human motion. Transportation is using the transportation system. And some people, as we said, that's why we said 7/8 types of waste, because some people add loss of human potential. What's meant by loss of human potential? The loss of human potential is that when you have a worker in the work floor with, for example, a master's degree or a PhD degree, this is waste of human potential. This is a person that could excel in another segment of their work. So don't waste human potential. When the person has potential to do better than what he's doing, just put him in the right place. Otherwise, it's considered a source of waste as well, right? So those are the 7 or 8 types of wastes that can exist in any organization and needs to be getting rid of. This is step 2, waste elimination. All right. Standardization. We said that this is very crucial that we reach a specific target. After that, we have to focus on standardizing this process. What does standardization mainly mean? It's mainly built on what we call the Deming cycle or the Cheever cycle. This is referred to Professor Edward Deming. It's a person's name. And lots of people know the Deming cycle. This is the plan, do, check, act cycle, and then followed by standardization. So what are we talking about here? When we say plan, we mean that we are going to break down a certain problem, a certain improvement project that we have into certain steps, and then focus on each step and how to solve it. So the plan is first of all breaking down whatever problem or improvement project that we have into a fishbone, for example, into a 5 why questions, into whatever technique that we're going to be using in the planning phase, and then start working on breaking down this into certain issues and then focusing on how we're going to solve each issue. It's issue of those. And then after that, we have the do. So plan, do. Do is where we test those improvement opportunities that we talked about as a team and try to reach out which one is going to be the best fit. So we have a set of opportunities to fix one single issue. We have to choose this one. So we have to do, which is test all the opportunities and then select which one is the right one to be used. After that, we have to check. The check phase is where we compare all the results of those opportunities that we tested and which one is the best one so we can actually use it to achieve our target. All right, the last one is going to be act, where we actually implement this particular option that we chose to effectively implement, to be implemented effectively to solve the issue that we are having in the Kaizen project as a whole. All right, so what is this shape means? First of all, we always say that the BDCA cycle, BDCA is a Kaizen cycle, and then after that it's followed by a maintenance cycle, and then after that it's followed by Kaizen cycle, and then the maintenance cycle. This is mainly about the generalization of the process. So once we have implemented a certain solution in a Kaizen project, after that we have to generalize it across the entire organization, and once we generalize it, we have to start the process all over again by trying to find another object to improve and so on. So it's a continuous process on a daily basis and so on. Right? So this is why we have the standardization is as a third pillar. As we said, there is housekeeping, waste elimination, standardization. Those are the 3 pillars to build any successful Kaizen event. Right. As well, Kaizen success depends on lots of factors. Those factors could be varying from what we want to reach, like the goal clarity, the team itself. It can depend on the sources that we have. What are the resources that we have in any organization? How the communication works between team members and between the organization. The management supports. And I have to say that management support is very critical. If there is no support from the management, employees will not have the courage to implement any Kaizen activity in the beginning. So we have here goal clarity, goal difficulty, the team Kaizen experience, and as well we have to say that the Kaizen team must include a Kaizen expert to guide them, not just the team from employees or whatever team that comes together have to have an expert to help them understand the process. As well, we have resources, we have communication, we have the team leader experience, we have the management support, And we have the work area, the facility itself will be supportive to what they are doing or not. We have the event planning, the process itself. We have the action orientation. Do they actually want to make the Kaizen event successful or not? We have to know their commitment to the change. They can just say suggestion. No, they have to commit to it. And the internal process and how that goes. And as I said, management support, goal clarity, and the team are the most important factors for Kaizen success. And before going to the activities, does anyone has any questions so far? Okay, so I'm gonna assume that there are no questions, that everything is easy. Okay. Right, so the next part here, we have some activities to go through. This is very simple. This is where we show how Kaizen is actually implemented in the real world. So the first activity that we are going to start with is defining a problem. It might sound very easy, but when you say a person, tell me your problems, they're going to tell you something that doesn't quite look like a problem that can be solved. They're going to talk about personal things that they want to achieve. Targets, not problems. So, as we see here, what are the goals that we want to achieve? And as we said, Kaizen is not mainly just about problems. It can as well include other life improvement goals. So let's say it's not a problem, it's an issue, it's a goal that we want to achieve. So what they could include on a personal level, they could be spiritual goals. They could be daily activities that they want to do. They could include meditation or a religious aspect that they want to do as well. They could be personal goals, self goals. They can be related to family, or a person can have goals related to their career, the work in hand, to the promotion that they want to get. A university professor would want to get promoted to make more research papers as well. They would want to enhance the work in the class, to adopt new technologies, new methodologies in teaching, and so on. Okay, so the Japanese people made a Kaizen suggestion board, and this board is mainly about, this can be seen as well in several organizations and service organizations. This is about what do you want to suggest and how to do it, what you're doing it, and what's done. So from the previous, as we see here, that the goals could be personal, but could be related. But in any organization, they're going to focus on what the company goals are. So they're going to make a Kaizen suggestion board to all employees, and they're going to start saying what we're going to do, what we're doing, and what's done. Some what we might consider doing in the future. Suggesting could be like, for example, we need to have a coffee machine. And this is to save the time of motion, as we said. Motion waste, time waste, going from one place to the other, and so on. So it's a simple suggestion. Getting a coffee machine could be a suggestion. Another thing could be, for example, providing delivery for certain products. Purchasing books from a foreign country, for example, to help students. Getting new lights because the library lights is just, not really good, and so on. Those are all suggestions can be available in any workplace, and then the organization will divide them onto to-do list, doing right now, and done. Done is after they finish it, and to do, then we're going to consider doing them, and so on. The second activity that we can see here is related to personal improvement, and this is something that I have created and actually implemented. And this is like, for example, everything. I'm just imagining that everybody would want to reduce their personal spendings. So they're gonna see like, I spend a lot of money each month. How can I reduce that? As well, on a personal level, we can say family problems, like for example, with when a child doesn't want to listen to his parents, how can we solve this issue? How can we enhance this relationship between the family members? This can be presented as well. So let's focus on reducing the personal spending. How can we do that? And I came up with a Kaizen plan, is that every month we divide what we have as spending into food, transportation, and other spending, like purchasing books or personal objects and so on. So dividing all those together into days, and then reaching to the total of every day, and then reaching to the total of the entire month. And then by the end of the month, we have what can be reduced and what can we improve in our personal spending. So after we divide that personal spending into categories, we have to make sure that we determine what can we do. How can we reduce it? How can we improve it? What's necessary and what's not necessary and can be getting rid of. Right. So this is related to a personal thing. And as we said, not just certainly having an issue that is related to a person. It could be related to an entire family, like enhancing the relation between a person and his family members and so on. When it comes to the work, as we can see here, mainly Kaizen has a certain steps that every organization follows when implementing Kaizen. They start by setting, as we see here in this image, determining the unit or department we're working on, the implementing date, the start date, the end date. We have the head of IT. This is not the IT department. This is an improvement team. And then we have two categories. What's going on? What's the status before Kaizen, and what's the status after Kaizen? As we said, this is in the steps of implementing Kaizen event in the very beginning. We have steps, and the second step was to document the state before we start Kaizen. So before improvement, before Kaizen, what are the problems or the issue that we need to improve, not necessarily problem as we said, and then what are the Kaizen points, and then what are the inputs that we can add to this particular project, and then we can also add pictures of the workplace if we're going to be implementing 5S. It's a messy workplace, so we add pictures so we can compare it to how it's going to look like after the improvement is made. And then on the right side, we have after the Kaizen, after the implementation, what are the outcomes, what are the outputs, what the benefits are, and we can add pictures after the Kaizen. So this is before Kaizen and after Kaizen. Okay, this is a real-life implementation in a hospital, in a surgical ICU, and as we can see here, they added the date December 2008, and they added before Kaizen, what were the problems, the Kaizen points, and the input. The problem here was very simple, that they just, interchanged the shoes when they entered to the ICU. The dirty shoes was the clean shoes. So they just wanted to make sure that whoever entered the ICU is just wearing a new shoe, and then whenever they finish, they just put it in the dirty box and so on. So the input is that they have 2 empty boxes and stationaries. This is a simple issue. They just want to fix a huge problem of contamination in the ICU unit. And to prevent this issue was simply by just putting 2 boxes, one for the clean shoes, one for the dirty one. And after the Kaizen, the benefit was that the confusion of shoe cover status is reduced. So now people know where the clean ones are and where the dirty ones are, and that the infection prevention and control are improved. So it might look at the beginning that this is something very simple. Do they really need a Kaizen event for that? But they do. And it actually solved a huge contamination issue, as we see. Okay, so this is implement Kaizen in a workplace. So today we're talking about Kaizen education. So how can we do that? We can see here in 2014, Misaki Imai, who's the person who introduced Kaizen in Japan, has the book Kaizen, the Key to Japanese Success, came up with this model of how to implement Kaizen, and he actually stressed on the role of each person in implementing Kaizen, starting from the Ministry of National Education all the way to the students in classes. So starting from the left, the Ministry of National Education, and then the school administration, the teachers, the students. What's the role of the Ministry of National Education? This here presents the top management of the system, the higher level of any organization in the educational organization. The ministry is the top level, the very top level. All right, so what they need to do? They have to be committed to launching Kaizen as a strategy. So they just can't go to a press conference and say, we're going to implement Kaizen. No, they have to be committed, which means they have to provide support and the plan and set certain policies to this. So provide support and direction of the Kaizen, and as well provide resources, create the policies and cross-functional objectives for Kaizen. It as well can conduct the policies and administration and audit the Kaizen process, and build the system and process and Kaizen. When it comes to can they can execute the Kaizen objectives. So if the ministry put the objective, the school administration have to execute those objectives and have to be committed to them as well. They have to use Kaizen in functional activities. So they have to determine what are the activities and start using them in. Also, they have to set and maintain and improve the standards. As we said, this is the purpose of every Kaizen. In general, as a philosophy, they have to maintain and improve the standards, the work standards that they are having. And they have to implement Kaizen awareness and spread this awareness to employees through training programs. So they have to train the whole entire educational sector, how they can use Kaizen, how they can define problems, how they can define the issues to be improved, how can they set together as a team and determine what can be improved and what cannot be improved, what can we implement right now, and what can we put on our to-do list in the future, this training program, and as well have a Kaizen expert to help the employees and the staff members in actually doing this, whether they are academics or administrative. They have to work together as a team to implement Kaizen and have full motivation to actually commit to the results of the Kaizen process. Right. And as well, they have to help employees develop their skills in problem-solving tools, because not everybody have those tools, and if they have those tools, they might not be able to use it or know how to use it, or that they just need the push from the administration to motivate them to use it. All right, when it comes to teachers or professors in universities, they have to use Kaizen in functional roles. So they have to put Kaizen in their classes to make Kaizen activities with their students, as we're going to see in the upcoming slide. They have to prepare and guide the students into Kaizen activities, and this is something that is implemented in Japan and as well here in Asia. They guide and prepare the students to use Kaizen. They strengthen the communication with students and provide high morale. So they try to work on the attitude part, and as we said, Kaizen philosophy is as well focus on the personal perspective of every person, and this is to help them improve their studying activities, not only within the university or school, as well at home, to make a habit of what they are doing. Because when they continue doing improvement, so they want to study like a whole book. Today they study 2 pages, tomorrow they study 3 pages. With continuosity, they will reach their target maybe by the end of the semester. So this is about them setting the standards for their students and helping them achieve it. As well, they should support small groups of work and individual suggestion. Suggestions is a very important, critical part of Kaizen. It's a very important tool. They have to support the suggestions in all time, and they have to have quality circles. It's very important because the teachers are the ones that are going to be taking the initiative to implement Kaizen and maintain the process successful. They have to motivate not only the students but their colleagues to have quality circles, to monitor the activities of the students, to see the suggestion from whether their class or their colleagues and so on, and create the Kaizen suggestions. And as we said, we can create a suggestion board, which we have seen before, which is this one. This is a Kaizen suggestion board. Can be placed in any school. It can be placed in any class. It can be placed in any person's office for his personal reason, personal improvement, for his students' improvements, and so on. So this is a suggestion board. And the final part is the students. What is the students participating in the Kaizen process? The students participate greatly by making suggestions, by making small groups of improvement, by committing to what they suggest. So they can't just suggest an improvement and then walk away. No, they have to commit to what they said they want to do and achieve it. And they have to be disciplined in what they do and their commitment to this project, the Kaizen project that they are adopting. As well, they have to continuously improve themselves by better solving problems, by enhancing their attitude, by assisting their professors, and so on. As well, they have to improve the talent and experience of cross-training activities. There has to be activities as well in any school or university that help students find out what could go wrong and fix it, find out reasons for improvement, find out opportunities for improvement, and how they can implement it and continue to sustain it. Right? As we said, a teacher's role is to create a Kaizen suggestion. Okay, so the fifth activity is a student improvement. This is something that is actually achieved here by the Japanese language instructors in Egypt, Japan University of Science and Technology. So this is something that they actually do, the Japanese instructors actually do in teaching the language class. So this is how the student reflection sheet looks like. They start by setting the goals. This is given to each. They have goals of the semester, and this is something that they write at the beginning of the semester. They set their goals and standards, and then actions. And this is the action that they plan to do to reach their goals. So they write the first and second columns at the beginning of the semester, and then in the midterm they have a midterm reflection sheet. This is at the middle of the semester. So at the beginning of the semester, they write the first two columns. At the middle of the semester, they write the last column. Right? And this is something that they do for each course. This is something that they keep with them, the students. The teacher would revise this, and then after they revise it, they give it back to the students by midterm to make sure that they write what they achieved by the mid of the semester, and then what they are going to do to continue on their goals. And then at each lecture, we give them a can-do checklist. A can-do checklist is having the learning objective that the students would have. It have self-evaluation. They have to rank themselves. The students themselves has to rank what they reach it. So it ranks goes from number 1, didn't understand, to number 5, understand very well, and so on. The learning objective that they learned, and they rank it, and they write it down what they got from this lecture. And then after that, they write their comments, what you learned, what you found interesting, something that you might want to enhance personally. And what would you like to retake again, or something that you didn't understand and would feel better to take again in the upcoming courses? I added as well a few references here. As we can see, some of them is just related to purely Kaizen and how they are effectively implemented. Kaizen, as I said, is part of a continuous process of improvement, so it might, in some of the books, came under the title 5S Kaizen and TQM. Some of them, as we see here, came under Agile and Lean concept in teaching, and some of them is purely about education, as we see the last one. So that's all. Thank you very much. This is my contact information. All right, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Ola.
Thank you.
Actually, it was a very useful title or a very useful workshop. Also, it was an excellent presentation and presenter. Most of us who wasn't know more about Kaizen before. Thanks for participants. Now you can ask any question by write in the chat, or just raise a hand and unmute your phone. We are waiting your questions. I think that was Dr. Hannah was raised her hand before.
Okay.
Dr. Hannah also.
Okay, would you please unmute her?
Any Dr. Ola, any participant can unmute himself.
Okay.
Okay. Let me say, it's not a question. It was something like I was studying Lean and the Six Sigma before, maybe 10 years ago. And I was asking why we can't use Six Sigma or Lean in our normal life, or something in organizations like universities. As you know, Six Sigma was perfect with industry and manufacture, but it wasn't. I didn't see any person who use Six Sigma in education or in normal life or something like that. So I was asking and wondering why we don't have a criteria like Six Sigma or Lean in educational organizations or a normal life, but now and today I'm very happy to know about Kaizen, and we can use the Kaizen to improve and enhance our educational organizations. So it was very good news today for me.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like it. Actually, as you can see as well in the reference, there is a book titled Agile and Lean Concept for Teaching and Learning. So yeah, they use Kaizen and Lean and in the organizations, and not just in factories. It might have been initiated in factories, but it's used in the educational sector. They focus, when it comes to Six Sigma, they focus on the defects, what's going on, what's wrong, and how they can fix it. Lean is mainly about flexibility, reaching our goal in a flexible way and eliminating waste. All of them are used together. So Lean, Six Sigma, total quality management, just in time, Kaizen. Kaizen is an umbrella of lots of other tools, and as I said, it goes on with Lean. They work together. Lean is a top-down approach. Kaizen is a bottom-up approach. They are together. They exist in any organization, in any facility. That organization sector is one of the very important sectors that need to implement Lean and Kaizen in achieving its goals. So yeah, it might be like people would think that these are stuff that are just limited to the manufacturing sector. However, they are used across all kinds of sectors, and they should be. We should present more workshops and more activities of how to implement Kaizen and Lean in the educational sector, how the professors and students they can actually implement this in every class, how they can make reflection activities with their students and so on. So yeah, I know it's not very commonly used, but it should be used, especially nowadays with the new technological change in the educational sector.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. I didn't receive any question from attendees. So thank you very much, Dr. Aula. I know that there was a great work and job behind this presentation. Thanks, and thanks for the participants. Dr. Amira. Dr. Amira was raising
Yes,
her hand.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I have a question concerning the student reflection sheet. I think shouldn't the teacher fill the goals for this column for each course?
You mean when it comes to the reflection sheets?
Yes.
Okay. You believe that the professor should fill in the goals for each semester at the beginning?
I mean, the course, each course has its own goals.
Yes. Yeah, but if you consider that the Kaizen is mainly related not just to the teachers but as well the students, do you believe that the goals that the professors have and the students are the same?
I mean, for to study, how to study, or it's different. But I mean, the goals of this for the same course. I mean, you mean the semester goals? It concerns the students' way of studying or something related to this. It doesn't. It's not about the course contents.
No, it's not related to the content of the course. The course itself might be having a certain content. It might be having certain objectives. We tell them what the objectives of each course are. We tell them what are the learning objectives of each course, of each unit, of each chapter, and so on. But maybe they have certain targets that they want to reach. Students would be writing goals like, I want to get an A in this course. I want to study hard this semester. They would be writing objectives from their perspective, their point of view, which is completely different from a teacher's point of view, who actually want them to get good marks and to study well and to memorize all the learning objectives to be able to implement it. But maybe a student might be having a different, complete set of objectives. And that's why he's the one who have to write them down to know how to implement them and to actually work in the plan to achieve his own personal goals.
Okay, I thought it was related to the learning objectives. Thank you very much. So it might be related to career reflection, their career. What would how this course might reflect, for instance.
Yeah, and you can also do this upon yourself. You can, as a professor, you can just set at the beginning of the semester, you can set certain goals. So if you're going to set certain goals here on the left side, your goals might not be explaining all the learning objective to students. Your goals might be making sure that the students understand those learning objectives. And the action here would be, how can I make sure that they understand all those learning objectives? Is that by making a reflection with the students after each class and make sure that they understood what I said. So the goals might not be just to do your job, it might be to further be involved in your job. So this student reflection sheet can be done by a professor upon himself, because he's the one who have to be committed to it. And that's why when a student does a reflection sheet, he's the one who's going to be committed to it, not his professor. So if the professor set the goal to the students, we didn't do anything. Like the students have to set his own goals to make the action to how the students himself is going to implement it, and then by midterm he have to determine whether he met part of those goals or he needs more action. A professor at the beginning of the semester might have a personal reflection sheet with the goals at the beginning of the semester. They can be very simple goals, are just explaining to the students. They can be that he want to be involved more with the students, that they can be that he want to have more free time for his students. And then what the action is going to make, maybe he can set more extra hours after work to explain things to his students, to make office hours for them, and so on. And then by midterm, he can revise again whether he achieved those targets or not. So that's why this is something personal, and the person who set the goals have to be committed to them, right? Together as a team, the students and the professor together have to make sure that each one reached his goal. So the professor have to revise this student reflection sheet and then remind the students, have you reached your goal? What is it that he can do? And so on. This is like advising him and mentoring him. But he cannot just enforce upon him what he can do and cannot do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Angela. Thank you, Dr. Ola. Dr. Ola, I think in the future it will be very useful to present a workshop in the same title with more activities or implementation.
Yes.
Yes.
It was actually a plan to implement a workshop in Egypt. Here in the university, we wanted to make a workshop, especially with further explanation on how to identify the problem, on how to write the problems in a presentable way, and how to set the opportunities and which one can be implemented, because this is a group work. So yeah, it's going to be better in the future to have a workshop to be able to see how this is implemented and how this becomes effective in everywhere.
Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Ola, for this very useful presentation. Thank you all participants. I hope that you are enjoying our conference Abitel 2020, and I hope to see you again also in the next year. Thank you for all.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you all.